the focus, our focus as adults should be that we are facilitators. We can be facilitators rather than teachers. This idea of the teacher is really a little bit ambiguous, because the idea behind it is that we are giving the child knowledge, or we are giving them a skill, and actually the children come into the world with everything they need to develop all these things. We need to set up an environment, but a hugely important part of that environment is us. We are, there's the natural environment, and there's the environment of the community that they live in. There might be the school environment, your home environment, but we are the consistent part of that are providing all these different things here, and hopefully that starts a very stable foundation. But in terms of developing self-discipline, if we are only, I don't think anybody necessarily is, but I think we can reflect on ourselves as parents, or in the relationships that we have. If we are only giving instruction, or because that, if you're very busy, that happens. It can happen momentarily. You just think, gosh, this week, what conversations have I had with my child? Yes, they've mostly revolved around, please don't do that, please, because when your child's busy doing something, you're like, okay, just have 5 minutes. And then your interactions with them become quite structured around instruction, or even meal times or whatever, not having any discussion about anything, just sit down, hold your fork like this, don't eat like that, and it becomes a bit rudimentary. So what you ultimately, with your child that's hitting out, and everybody, I'm sure if there's anyone that's not had that situation, I'd be worried. It's got to be a point. And some children don't ever hit peers, but they'll hit parents and things like that. There's, they have those moments where the impulse controls, and I think lots of adults have those moments too. But it's that, how do we help them develop the impulse control? Because it's in them, and it isn't something you can teach. And so we have to be a facilitator, and it's so multifaceted, because they really need to have that love and feel our love, but also know where the boundaries are.
Because I don't believe in forcing them to say sorry, because but then that's expected. So if I don't force my child to say sorry, then they're like, I can't believe you didn't make them say sorry. But I think, well, they don't understand. Like, they just didn't mean to,
The way that we explain it to parents in school, because we don't ask the children to say sorry. The children might ask the children to say sorry, and that's a different situation. But is that sorry is a feeling, and we want the children to start to feel sorry. And no matter how much we tell them to feel sorry, you cannot make somebody feel something. It has to happen from them. And so that is very much tied in with the development of their consciousness, and their ability to reflect, and their ability to de-center and see something from someone else's point of view. And they don't do that until this hints of it when they're sort of 3.5, 4, but it's really 5, 6 years old, and then into what we call the elementary stage of development. So there's sort of 6 to 12 years where they really start to go, okay, I can see it from someone else's point of view. And even then, 6 to 9, we're talking, it's black and white for them. If they have a particular religious affiliation at home, that is the way that people do things, and anybody else is wrong. And they will sit and listen to other people, and they'll be you can kind of facilitate tolerance and understanding and acceptance, but they still will say, my family does it the way that is. 9 to 12 years old, they start to get this shades of grey and go, oh, right, okay, and then they go home and go, how come we do it like that, Mum? So it's, our expectations again of them are so huge. But in terms of saying sorry, it's a feeling, and we didn't like to call it an experiment. When I worked in Thailand, I ran a small nursery school out there for several years, and we decided we had a very unique situation where we were out of the kind of mainstream community, and we had a lot of children who were learning English as a second language, and we didn't have the same level of kind of conscious parenting that you have in any kind of setting in Edinburgh or somewhere else. And so we decided to just get the parents in and say, look, we're going to try this. We're not going to ask the children to say sorry. Could you please try and do it at home? And most people were like, yeah, okay, why not? We'll give it a try, because it was the first time anyone had ever suggested it. And we explained that what we were going to do was draw their attention and their consciousness to what had happened, depending on the situation. So toddlers, it was a little bit different, because the impulse control just isn't there, and telling them off all the time, but you become in a kind of pattern of them just being told off. So toddlers, we used redirection. 3+ children, we used a technique of saying to them, right, I see that you're feeling angry, you're hitting someone, that shows me that you have some anger. Let's think about what made you angry. Do you know what made you angry? And sometimes the older children can tell you, other times they really, really can't. And so you would just say, well, I've just seen what happened here. This is what I saw. And that triggers their, just giving them almost like a script. And, that person did something that you didn't like. So you need to use your words to explain that. What words could you use? And we give a very clear, you have to give them words in the beginning, because they don't know. What words would they use? I have no idea. They're not seeing, they're so much engrossed in what they're doing, they don't walk around going, look at those people having an argument, they used good words, I shall try that next time. It's got to be experiential.
It's usually quite immediate is the only thing. So I would usually go and console the other child, because they're screaming because they've just been bashed over the head. And then you can, because it's quite hard to, because people do think you're a lunatic, like I try and do that, but people think you're... I find it quite hard.
I think that's exactly the challenges with other adults.
Yeah, it is.
Because other children will accept it, depending on the situation. Just saying, I see what's happened, and you've made your friend. I mean, you've made your friend angry. Can you see their face? Can you see they're crying?
They're sad.
That's what happened. And gradually, over time, what we saw happen in Thailand was, it was absolutely lovely. Over 2 years, the children started to use their own words. They didn't use the script that we gave them anymore. They started to spontaneously apologise to one another, because they do hear it. I mean, people apologise. If I bump into somebody else, I'm sorry, are you okay? So we modelled the apologies and when to use them, and we modelled that genuine care for something happening. And they started to, there would be incidents would happen, and an adult wouldn't need to intervene at all, because another child would come on and say, are you okay? Can I help you? And they had all these strategies for making somebody feel better when they'd upset them, so they could read the social cues, and they would say, oh, you're upset, let me get you a glass of water. Would you like a banana? I mean, they came up with their own strategies. It was absolutely lovely to observe.
But there's also an element to actually just let them sort it out themselves, and I don't know what age that's appropriate or not, but I try, you try not to jump in straight away.
I think it's very much, you have to make a judgment on whether they are able to work in that particular situation, to work something out in a particular situation, because some situations are very straightforward and they can. I think they need a bit of the script to begin with, and what's lovely is if they are in an environment where they're independent from you, so in their school environment or in their nursery environment, if that is happening, and lots of teachers work in that way, that they give them that kind of script, then they're hearing it consistently in a community, not just from one person, and it's a kind of